Bye, Don.
Bye.
Order the Glendale City.
Your microphone, please.
I'll start over. Welcome to the special meeting of the Glendale City Council on May 21st, 2013 at 3:05 p.m. May we have roll call?
Council members: Friedman.
Here.
Najarian.
Here?
Quintero.
Here.
Nanyan.
Here.
Mayor Weaver.
Here. May we have your report?
The agenda for the May 14, 2013 special public meeting of the Glendale City Council was posted on Thursday, May 9, 2013 on the bulletin board outside City Hall. This is a public hearing, Director of Community Development, regarding proposed development project. The link to be located at 3901 through 3915 San Fernando Road. At 1A is a motion approving Stage 1 design review subject to comments and conditions of approval.
Thank you. Mr. Cho.
Yes, sir. We are pleased to present to you the Stage 1 design review for the proposed mixed-use building for 142 units generally located at San Fernando and Central. That represents the potential next investment in the south anchor of Glendale. We will have our planner, Rather Duong, give the staff presentation, and Alan Castillo will assist as needed. But Rather?
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor Weaver and members of the City Council. Coreco Development is requesting the approval of a Stage 1 design review for a new mixed-use project located at 3901 to 3915 San Fernando Road. This is a 45,788 square foot site located at the northwest corner of San Fernando Road and Central Avenue. The site is currently occupied by 2 buildings. The project will include 142 apartment units, residential apartment units, and about 16,000 square feet of ground floor commercial space in a podium-style building. The proposed 5-story building will be approximately 75 feet high. There will be a total of 219 parking spaces. 43 of the spaces will be reserved for commercial uses on the ground floor, and 176 spaces will be for the residential use and will be located in 2 levels of subterranean parking. Access to these parking facility will be off of San Fernando Road and the alley for the commercial uses, and off the alley for all the residential parking facilities. Staff has worked closely with Coreco and its design team, and we recommend that the City Council approve the Stage 1 conceptual design. With that, I would like to turn to Rodney Kahn and the design team for further presentation, for a more detailed presentation of the project. Thank you.
First speaker, Rodney Kahn.
Thank you, Rather. Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council, and City staff. My name is Rodney Kahn. My offices are located on Brand Boulevard here in the city of Glendale. Today, once again, we are requesting Stage 1 conceptual review only. We are in the process of doing our environmental analysis, our CEQA analysis for the project, which will analyze a number of environmental impacts the project may have. Everything from traffic to cultural resources. There will be a historic assessment of the corner building, along with safety and noise, to name a few. This environmental document will be circulated, and we will address all the comments we receive at a future Stage 2 City Council hearing. A few of the comments I'd like to highlight before I turn it over to the architect to show you and walk you through the design of the project. First of all, the concept for the Link project is to create a boutique apartment complex that complements the Triangle project, which is directly across the street from it. However, it can still stand on its own. The location of the project, we are in very close proximity to the Larry Zarian Transit Center and the Metrolink station. This encouraged us by way of the buses, MTA, and the Glendale B line. A resident could traverse from public transportation anywhere into the city of Glendale. And also, as a result of this station, a resident could go anywhere in the Southern California region by way of Amtrak or Metrolink. The name of our project, The Link, is in part reflects this. This area of the city is along the San Fernando Road corridor. It is part of a creative corridor. And on our property, one of the tenants is the Solar Studios. Solar Studios is a small Glendale-based studio that films commercials, television programs, etc. It was very important to us to retain them and to bring them back into the new project, which is what we will be doing. One of the first things you notice about our site, if you've had an opportunity to go out there and on the corner, and this will be further amplified, is if you look on number 3 of the images, you see a few things. You see an older building that has been modified and piecemealed over the years, but what you really see that stands out to you is a very large billboard on the rooftop. And as a result of the new project, we will have a high-quality, cohesive building, but that billboard will be removed. We are exercising the density bonus ordinance, Senate Bill, or SB 1818, which this state law allows us to increase our unit count to 142 units. In doing so, we are providing 12 very low-income units at no cost to the city of Glendale. And we know it costs millions of dollars to acquire land, to build new affordable housing units. In this particular case, these units cost the city nothing. Parks and open space, our project will pay a fee. It will exceed $1 million for parks that will go to our community. As it relates to the open space, our architects will walk you through the public, the private, and the common open space for the residents and the businesses. 2 other brief items. One is we've been asked to seriously consider a restaurant as part of our project on the ground floor. This component of the project, which was suggested to us, would serve our building. It could also serve the Triangle, the Glendale Memorial Hospital, and in fact, many of the neighborhoods in the area of the southern part of Glendale, Atwater, and Silver Lake. And this is something that we are very much considering as part of this project. To conclude, we're starting to see this area of the city transformed, where for many years there was not much going on at all. So between the Triangle project and now the project we're referring to as the Link, we think that this is starting to make this area come to life for our community. I'll conclude my remarks. I'd like to invite the architects up to walk you through the design of the project. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Your name for the record, are you Michael?
Good afternoon. Yes, I'm Michael de Villiers. I'm architect at TCA Architects. My colleague Eric Olson, who is a design principal, is here with me today, and we're going to present to you jointly. I'm speaking first, and he will follow with his presentation of the architectural concept. Following on from Rodney's comments about the location of the site, this is obviously an important nexus at the south end of Glendale here. There are existing buildings that this new project will play into the context of. There is, of course, the Glendale Memorial Hospital, the medical office building next door on Central, and of course the Triangle project under construction. Our project will be a little shorter than the Triangle, but nevertheless the scale of all of these buildings together we feel is going to act as a cohesive kind of gateway to the south end of Glendale, and for the first time we'll kind of bring this together as an urban neighborhood sort of unto itself. The ground floor of our project at the corner of San Fernando Road and Central Avenue is lined on both of those streets with commercial space, with retail, restaurant, as Rodney said, and studio space. There is a driveway entrance for the parking area serving that commercial space on San Fernando Road, and one also on the rear alley. All of the parking for the commercial is located at that ground level. There are 43 spaces there. Also access from the alley is a driveway ramp to the subterranean residential parking garage. There are 2 levels there, and all the resident parking is provided underground. Building a new building on this site, we have a tremendous opportunity to take advantage of the street conditions. We will be setting the building back on the ground floor at numerous locations. Most notably on the corner, we'll be providing a corner plaza. That will be particularly useful for restaurant outdoor seating on that sunny southeastern corner of the site. It's very prominent visually in the city as at this gateway, and you'll see later how the architectural expression of the building is also heightened at that important corner. In addition to that corner plaza setback, we're also setting the building back at the ground floor with landscaped arcaded areas, and they would occur. Oops. They would occur at the residential building entry, which is over here, where we'll have an arcaded space that would extend somewhat beyond the extent of the building entry, and that would be a landscaped area. There may be some benches out there, something that widens the sidewalk, widens the public realm at that important entry spot. Additionally, on the corner over here where we have the studio space, both on Central Avenue and at the alley, we're also pulling the ground floor of the building in to provide arcaded landscape area. The height of the building is previously stated at 75 feet, and I believe in the report that you may have seen as well, that is actually incorrect. The building is actually 60 feet high. 75 feet is approximately the height of the Triangle project across the street. We are 1 story lower than the Triangle. There are 4 levels of residential units, starting at the 2nd floor above the single ground floor commercial level. You can see here the 2 subterranean basement levels accommodating the residential parking. What also shows in this sectional view of the building is the extent of the central courtyard. You can see that the proportion of that courtyard is quite wide relative to its height. So we see that as a very generous outdoor amenity for residents. At the first residential floor level, what we call the podium level, this is the 2nd floor of the building. This establishes the residential floor plates basically at each level. At this level, additionally, you can see these are the elevators that have views out to the street. that you also have access via these areas, which are resident amenity spaces, into this generous courtyard, the main courtyard. There's about 10,000 square feet of courtyard and amenity space and outdoor space at this podium level. In addition to the main courtyard, there's also a narrower courtyard on the north end. Both of these courtyards have views to the hills beyond. And in addition, we have these light well courts, which mark the walkways, the corridors leading to the individual units. This is an enlarged view of the main central courtyard. We see this as having a resort-like feel. The amenities included in here are a pool and spa area, a central fireplace with a gathering lounge spot, a barbecue area, exercise area, large trees, and gathering and seating areas. And these are off of the resident lounge and gym area. My colleague Eric Olson will now present the architectural concept for the building.
Thank you.
Quick question, are you going to have enough dirt to support large trees, given that you've got parking below?
The trees will be in raised planters. Appropriate, the height of the planters is appropriate to the scale of the landscape. That'll vary from large trees may take about 4 feet of planter depth. Smaller plant materials will be in planters that are less than that dimension.
Similar to the Americana Park and side as large trees on top of concrete under garage.
Exactly.
Yes. Okay, Eric?
Any other questions now or later?
No, I didn't know there were any. I'm sorry. It's my fault. Okay, Eric? Name for the record.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Eric Olson. I'm a partner at TCA. Our offices are here in Los Angeles, downtown. It's a pleasure to be here and share this exciting design with you today. Okay. The concept diagram that we see on the screen reinforces two things. One is activating the main street, Central and San Fernando. The other is creating a very special corner that, as you know, works in conjunction with the corner at the triangle across the street and acts as this gateway that we've talked about moving north into Glendale on San Fernando. And so the idea is to have two systems that intersect at this corner and reinforce the ground floor plaza at that corner. The view along Central that shows that plaza on the corner and onwards up towards San Fernando. And then the opposite view traveling southbound on San Fernando. We see in the inset panel the existing building and the billboard. And then this, from the same view, the proposed design that shows our building at the north property line. On this view of the main corner, which shows the existing building and the inset panel, we see a little bit better the actual system. And the system, or the idea, is to create a backdrop of glass panels, if you will, that slide towards the corner and intersect in this architectural expression that is at one time quiet and subdued, but on the other hand very confident and utilizes rich materials to reinforce that ground plane. The counterpoint to that are these fingers or these musical notes that we're using an analogy to activate these streets, activate the ground plane. They give the analogy of moving up and down in a musical rhythm and utilize different colors and materials to reinforce this aesthetic. The elevation's a little bit small, but in your packet it points out that we've got a really special project here in that on these main streets there's very little plaster. We're using glass and glass panels, either in glass guardrails or glass spandrel panels, for that underlayment of a glass fabric, if you will. And then the musical notes or the towers are either hardy panels, a cementitious panel, or a metal panel in varying colors. And so that corner expression is all glass, and it's a wood frame building on top of a concrete podium, but we're able to use glass guardrails and glass panels in conjunction with this window wall system to keep the cost reasonable with this building type, but again, make this corner special. And then those glass fibers, if you will, continue on both sides of the building as an underlayment to these musical notes, really to be a neutral material behind these towers. Like I said, the towers are either hardy panel, which can be painted, or a metal panel, which has a nice sheen and a contrast to the hardy panel, which tends to be a little bit more flat. And so in the rendering, we see some of those materials reading. You need a microscope to really see some of the detailing in those panels and whatnot, which I think you can see some of on the 11 by 17 handout. But again, this is where it all comes together at that corner and the plaza expression at the ground plane. And hopefully the lighting on this will be fantastic, and it'll create a nice glow in the evening time, as is shown on the rendering here. I believe, yes, that George has a few comments. Thank you.
George,
Hello.
name for the record.
Yes. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and City Council persons. My name is George Gorikian. I'm the owner and the developer of the link. I want to start off with a quote from President Abraham Lincoln. And he stated that property is the fruit of labor. Property is desirable, is a positive good in the world. That some should be rich shows that others may become rich, and hence is just encouragement to industry and enterprise. Let not him who is houseless pull the house of another, but let him labor diligently and build one for himself, thus by example assuring that his own shall be safe from violence when built. Property rights are what has set the United States of America apart from just any other country on this planet. They are part of what makes us so great and unique. Our founding fathers believed that respect for an individual property right lay at the heart of the social contract. They believed that property was the guardian of every other right, for without the right to own and use and enjoy one's property, free from arbitrary governmental interference, there could be no liberty of any sort. Today, as a property owner, I'm here to respectfully ask you, as representatives of a governmental entity, for the Stage 1 approval of this beautiful and architecturally significant project, and to protect my property rights. The City of Glendale a few years ago, as a visionary plan, rezoned the San Fernando Road corridor after years of studying and spending thousands of dollars on consultants. Part of this rezoning was the institution of the industrial mixed-use residential zone on our property. In 2004, the California legislature passed Senate Bill 1818 to incentivize the construction of more housing, both market rate and affordable. The law enables builders to add a few more housing units to projects so that fixed costs can be spread over more homes, with low-income renters the beneficiaries. The bipartisan consensus on SB 18 was overwhelming. It passed the state Senate unanimously, and it only garnered 4 nay votes in the state assembly. The visionary zoning, in conjunction with SB 1818, allows us to develop a project of this magnitude. By rezoning along the San Fernando corridor, Glendale wanted to create more dense housing, take on Hollywood and downtown Los Angeles, and lure more media and arts firms to its industrial area by cutting red tape. The council directed city officials to research the possibility of designating a media and design district within the San Fernando Road corridor to encourage economic growth. It then created assistance programs to help creative businesses in wanting to move to the area. Changes such as fast-tracked entitlement process and a point person at City Hall were designed to keep companies from becoming mired in an endless bureaucratic process. The actions of the City Council resulted in completed commercial office retail projects along the corridor, such as DreamWorks Animation Studio, ABC7 Studios, Grand Central Creative Campus, 338,000 square foot expansion to Walt Disney Company's campus, Glendale Memorial Master Plan expansion. There are also many completed public improvements projects along the corridor, including but not limited to the Larry Zarian Transportation Center. Most of you have led the way in transforming the San Fernando corridor into a business and job creation engine. This has been the city's economic bright spot, according to the Glendale News Press, attracting new business and jobs to the area and retaining existing businesses. However, there's a missing link: the residential component along the corridor. Where will all the creative people that we're trying to attract live? Don't we want to create quality housing for this discerning creative workforce and in the process create 12 units of low-income housing that will not cost the city a dime? Don't we want to collect millions of dollars in park fees and art fees and other fees when this city is struggling with its budget? Don't we want to encourage people to live next to transportation center so that they don't need cars to get to downtown LA and can use the Beeline to travel to any destination in Glendale or La Crescenta? Don't we want to generate hundreds and thousands of dollars in potential sales tax revenue? Don't we want to transform the neglected orphan child of Glendale, the South Glendale community, into a destination point that is a pride of the city? And last but not least, don't we want to create more jobs? The majority of our residents and I, as a long-standing and a productive member of this community, will answer yes to all of these questions. This part of the city belonged to the city of Tropico before it was annexed by Glendale. Tropico was called the Link City as it connected LA to Glendale. I respectfully request that you allow your vision to come to fruition and allow our project, The Link, to once again link the communities of Atwater, Silver Lake, and downtown Los Angeles to Glendale. Thank you.
Thank you. Sam Manukian, from here on is 3 minutes. I think that was all of the development team on it.
Good afternoon. My name is Sam Manukian. Basically, I wanted to congratulate you guys for having the vision and implementing the zoning to allow developments like this and the Triangle to take place. I think both of these projects coming online will have an effect that will complement one another, and I really thank the developer for taking the risk and the chance of putting a project like this together with the design team, with the city staff, and I hope you will grant the opportunity for it to go to the next stage. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Ara Aristamian.
Good afternoon, Mayor Weaver, Councilwoman Friedman, Councilman. My name is Ara Arustamian. I've been a resident of Glendale since I was a teenager some 30 years ago, and I'm not going to tell you how many 30 years, 30-some years. And I have my law practice in the city of Glendale for the past 7 years. I was a lawyer that practiced in downtown LA and the Los Feliz area, and some years ago, after living in the city of Glendale, decided to move my office also to the city because I was getting, I was becoming very proud of living in Glendale. I'm not going to hide the fact that back in the 70s, this was obviously a very sleepy town. And I was not very proud to go in my teen years and 20s to the west side, and when asked, where do you come from or where do you live, to say Glendale. Glendale, Arizona? Glendale where? So now that I am much older, and after seeing the progress, witnessing the progression of city of Glendale from what it was in the 70s to what it is now, which is a modern American city, a symbol of modern American city, having all the amenities of safety and also the developments, and thanks to members of the city council, city staff, in prior years and current, that development took its effect years ago, and now it has reached a point where central Glendale, this is what I like to call as opposed to downtown Glendale, and North Glendale has benefited immensely from the construction, the progress, and the development. But we're still missing. South Glendale has been neglected. You drive through. Last weekend I went to the train station to catch a train to go to Orange County, and I passed by this land. And how nice would it be to add color and flavor to a neighborhood that just looks old. Projects are developing. There's a major project, obviously, again, thanks to you, that is across the street, but that's not going to be enough. I truly support this project as a resident of the City of Glendale, as someone who has an office in City of Glendale. I would like to see more projects like this. I would go and eat in that restaurant whenever it opens. That is something that I look forward, and I would like some of my employees to have their offices there because they would probably be able to afford it. But, well, they're not going to like it, but with the salaries that they get paid by me, they would probably want to live there. I thank you very much for your time. I appreciate, and again, this is the voice of one among many in support of this project.
Thank you. Next speaker is Pierre Truckshian. I say it right, Pierre. I just know you as Pierre. Yeah.
Hello, Pierre Truckshian,
Oh, I got close.
resident of Glendale. Good to see some old friends, faces. I'm here obviously to support Project Link, and I'm not going to get into the economic advantages. I'm going to talk from the standpoint of somebody whose office is a block away from that project, from someone who has actually walked a few times and realized that this is not Glendale on San Fernando. I don't know if you guys have ever had a chance to walk in that area. It does not feel like Glendale, it does not represent Glendale, and something needs to be changed. I think this is a wonderful project. Of course, the economic advantages and the financial benefits of it to the city and to the community, it's obvious, so I'm not going to reiterate any of those points, but I truly believe that that part of Glendale needs to be changed. I can't stress enough, the buildings and the structures that are there are old, dilapidated, the streets are old, that should not be a part of Glendale. I hope you'll look positive to the project, and looking forward to seeing the neighborhood really do well. Thank you.
Okay, is anybody else going to turn a card in now? They keep dribbling in, so let's get them all in now. Huh? No more cards. Okay. Well, hey, Mikhail, how'd you know?
Hi, my name is Vahe Mikhail. Glad to thank you for your time to review the project. I work in Glendale. I've lived for a long time in South Glendale, so I know the area very well. Now I live in Hollywood because housing is not as attractive to us right now in Glendale, housing like this. And being in Glendale, South Glendale, knowing South Glendale, not very proud of what it's been for a while. And finally, you guys have been able to approve projects and so forth that are going to beautify this area. This actual area over here, right by Glendale Memorial Hospital, is just one area that I really didn't even consider as Glendale, up until you got to San Fernando and Las Feliz around there. Then technically that was Glendale. Today I went to a body shop right around, I think, a block away. And to me, I never even took a second look in that area. It was just gray, just a gray industrial, like, neglected area that most landlords, and I know most landlords have had it for a long time, those properties, consider them their cash cows, don't want to improve anything, don't want to touch it, don't want to spend money, collect the rents, maybe refinance it, spend their money in other cities where they know they can get a return. So I'm glad that the property owner has taken the risk and spent the money to try to revitalize this area, and I'm proud to support. Thank you.
So when it's built, you're going to move back to Glendale?
Hopefully.
Thank you. R.P. Castanian.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council, and members and staff. My name is R.P. Castanian. I'm the Vice President of the Armenian American Chamber of Commerce, and I'm here today to speak in support of the LINK project. And I'm also a business owner in Glendale. We believe this high-quality mixed-use project will benefit the community of Glendale and add new-quality apartment units for its citizens and for new people looking to move into the city. Also, the retail restaurant area, along with the studio space, will provide jobs and commerce along the San Fernando Road corridor. We especially like the location being close to the Larry Zergian Transit Center. The residents and business employees will be able to use public transportation to go throughout the Southern California region. The new linked project will beautify this gateway location into our city, which is something that is in this area needs. We are also very appreciative that this project is being privately financed and will bring new jobs and new residents that will eat, shop, and spend their money at the existing business in town. In addition, there are 12 new income housing units that will be created as a result of the density bonus provisions in SB 1818. These units will be at no cost to the city, when typically the cost of such units to the city will be in the neighborhood of $3 million. Since the city is in the middle of a budget crisis, we think that the park and additional fees generated from this project will be of great benefit to the city as well. Thank you for the opportunity to comment on this important project for our city.
Thank you. Next speaker is Peter Con. I'm not sure which.
Good afternoon. I'm Peter Cohn. Mayor Weaver, Council, thanks for the opportunity. I came to Glendale in 1991 and started Solar Studios. And I saw the gateway to Hollywood and the proximity of the Hollywood sign as it is today. And I watched Burbank get developed and watched the Americana get developed, and this corner has been a rough corner all along. And I've been there now since 92 approximately. I've managed to run my business, successful with it all this time, sort of on one foot, the arm behind my back. So I look forward to the opportunity to work in a place like this with, for me, I'll have better sound quality, I'll have higher ceilings, I'll have proper parking. I feel as though that the arcade space will give me the proper exterior spaces, which I never really had in the past. And at the end of the day, it means more business for everybody, which means more permits and things for the city of Glendale. And I mean, every day we pull a permit, we spend $1,000 in the city of Glendale approximately, plus other fees. We pull parking permits as well. So I think it's a good for all idea, and I look forward to the project going forward.
Question, what kind of a studio is it? What do you, entertainment related?
We shoot mostly television commercials and webisodes and bar shoots and product shoots, and we've had the likes of Jay Leno there, we've had Vanessa Williams, Stallone, we've had Dancing with Stars, we've had cooking shows. We had Russell Brand last summer. We did a show this year called Norway's Next Top Model. So we bring a lot of people into that area, and there's just, who come from other parts of town because of how it looks, not how it looks around the area. So it could be great if I can have my sort of historic shell inside this new building, and different sets of windows, and the ability to have double bank of windows, and a lot of these constructural qualities will help my business, and in turn will generate more fees for everybody.
So you'll be working with the architects to make sure that you get the shell that you want.
If you look at their drawings, you'll see they've drawn the studio space inside of there, and I have those arch windows from the outside, and they have that little vintage brick. So for me, my biggest concern is sort of reproducing some of that and also creating maybe a new part of it all in the same space. That's what sort of creates the backlot effect without feeling as though it's a back lot.
Very good. And I bet they'll like a restaurant right next door.
Yeah, they got a nice restaurant next door, and I just, it's pretty, it's not so appealing around there, and everything's kind of going along on other parts of Glendale. When you see other projects are in the north and sort of in the LA side, they're not right there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And next speaker, Emmanuel Suarez.
Hello, Mayor and City Council members. It's nice to meet you. I am an employee for Solar Studios, and I kind of feel like the elephant in the room because I am actually kind of feel the opposite of what really, having a building like this built, when there's a 300-plus unit building being built across the street, we're not, it feels saturated as it is already with traffic. And me, that I take the link, I take it often. It costs $5 to take. Now, I'm not super rich, and I'm the general manager at this business, but, $5 to downtown LA is quite, it's not easy for somebody. So, I think with a little more study on what the impact of this might benefit us a little better. I'm not opposed to it. I'm very skeptical, It seems like there's a lot of greed going on, but then again, I'm not opposed to it. It's just maybe coming at a wrong time when one's not even finished, And, I've been working in Glendale for like 7 years now, and I know what it's like. I know the traffic, the sirens, the buses, the contractors, Staples bus, people driving back and forth. Harley Davidson has a shop there. It doesn't seem like it's quite time for that yet. Our space is creative. They've retained the Seeley's building on San Fernando and Glendale. That's an old building, and it has, brick, and that's a creative space. And our space is beautiful right now as it is. And my boss stands, the way I see it, he stands to benefit and also potentially take a huge loss from it. Because our space really, really is creative. It has different looks and different textures. Old brick. Not brick from Home Depot, just old brick that takes a while for it to, to age and mature, to give our clients, the look they're looking for. And a lot of our clients spend a lot of money in Glendale. I personally spend thousands of dollars. I have the company credit card at Home Depot. I spend thousands of dollars there at Glendale, Home Depot, and I purchase permits from the city constantly. And I kind of feel like we're not quite ready for this. I kind of want to wait to see what happens. I'm not benefiting in any way. I might lose my job, but I'd like to see what happens with the building across the street and then take the next step, see what happens. Maybe something different size. I don't know. It's just kind of like, Wall Street money coming in.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, that was my last card. Council time? Who'd like to?
I have a couple questions for the architect.
Go ahead.
A couple of questions for the architect, whichever one wants to come up. Looking at the renderings, I wasn't sure if if all of the elevations have the same color treatments. The way that you're showing it, some of them don't, but I wasn't sure if you just weren't filling that in.
We have not completed all of the color treatments for the courtyard elevations. We can come back at stage 2 or supplement with...
Forgetting the courtyard, on the exterior, does the whole building have the same treatment all the way around, or are there certain parts that don't?
There's certain parts that don't.
Can you show me?
Yeah, we can go back to this rendering, which shows the north facade that's common to the parking lot at the drugstore, and then...
So that's the parking lot is facing that then?
Right. There's a small courtyard that, let me see if I can do
Yeah,
this.
between
That
the
part
building
there.
and the wall.
Right, and then the patchwork building is panels that are basically on the property line. So that's a different system, and then that wraps around to become the two main facades on San Fernando and Central.
So is that done for some sort of artistic impact, or are you not treating it or treating it differently because you at some point expect something to be built there? In other words, are you saving money by doing that, or is that a design choice?
That's a design choice.
Okay. And then it's hard to tell from the renderings, but I see that the balconies are recessed.
Mm-hmm.
But then the colored panels, are they all on the same plane?
They are all in the same plane, yes.
Did you think about playing with them, moving them back and forth, or did you think that was too much?
We actually did that at first, but we thought that was too much, and what you need to do when you do that is have some overframing where you're actually creating a fatter wall, and it just seemed like overkill in contrast to the up and down movement, which compared to or in conjunction with the color and materials
It's just too much.
was enough, yeah.
And then my last question for you, and then I have one for the applicant, is the arches that the studio wants to retain.
Mm-hmm.
I understand them wanting to retain it, that's great, but in terms of the arches working with this more boxy, linear, more contemporary design, how do you envision that working? Because I know this is very preliminary, but on the renderings, it doesn't seem to be working at all. It just seems really out of place to me. Have you thought about a way to treat that from the exterior so that it fits in with the rest of the building?
We've talked about that, and our first inclination was that keeping it as a little bit of the cultural history of the site and a bit of a remnant is a neat thing. And the fact that it's at the back of the colonnade, not right out on the main facade, seemed like a nice way to incorporate that. We've also talked about certain ways that we could detail that wall, and we didn't go too far with that. We thought we'd come and speak with you all and get some input before we took it to the next step.
I know that this is a very preliminary design, but to me it looks very incongruous. It looks very strange right now. So, given that this design is so linear, and you just kind of have these arches there, and when you say retain them, you're not retaining the arches, you're rebuilding something in the same shape. Right? You're not actually going to take the old brick that the one gentleman spoke about and put it back.
Yeah, they are storefront frames, so they're not historic wood frames or something like that. I can understand your point, and we took it as a bit of a challenge, like I said, to try to incorporate some aspect of it. And it's also a bit of style, if you will. It's a personal preference, and we certainly wouldn't propose those Gothic-style pointed arches on a contemporary building in a very obvious location. But down at the first floor, as a fenestration element to the studio, seemed like it would be a neat thing to try to do.
Well, the first floor is going to be the most visible element from anyone at the street, even anyone in their car in front of it. So I would just say that I think you need to really think about how you're going to do it.
Sure.
Because in the rendering, I don't think it's working.
Okay.
But I'm sure that there's a way that you can treat it or do something with it that does make it work.
Yeah.
It just really jumped out at me. Very strange.
In a weird sort of way, it's supposed to jump out at you. Hopefully it's a good way.
If something's going to jump out at you, I think then it really has to jump out at you. You know what I mean? It has to be something that's not just, hey, they wanted to keep the old arches, so here they are. It needs to really be a part of the design.
Sure.
So I have a question for the applicant, lastly. Some of our buildings that we've approved recently on Central incorporate public open space areas. You have something here that's probably going to be dedicated to a restaurant. That'll be restaurant seating. But would you consider putting in publicly accessible open space somewhere in the bottom of this building that's open to all of the public, whether or not they're customers or tenants?
I'm going to go to the site plan, Councilmember Friedman. Right now, as you remarked, this area on the corner is outdoor space. If we bring in a restaurant, which is what we are being encouraged to do, what we'd like to do, obviously that would be a great spot for outdoor dining. If we do not bring in a restaurant, obviously this space, whatever the retail space is, may or may not use that, and we could also look at that as public open space. What we may want to look at doing as a result of what you're suggesting is one of two things. One, if it's possible to look at expanding this area so that it is a greater public open space, or two, even consider some other space along maybe San Fernando Road. We have an arcade area, and maybe that gets enhanced in such a way that it creates a separate kind of private space that's outdoor that can be used by the general public. It's certainly something we can consider.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, I don't know if there are any other questions. I'm ready to comment.
I have questions.
Oh, go ahead, Mr. Najarian.
Maybe from the architect. And maybe I'm missing this. Where are these musical notes everyone's talking about?
It's a new terminology. It's the,
what are we talking about?
I think it's the balconies.
Musical notes are the colored towers. So each of these towers has a different height. Sometimes they're all the way down to the ground plane. Sometimes they're low on the parapet. And so there's an implied movement. Each one is different, a different height and a different location on the facade. And it provides some animation. And we used a musical analogy to portray that.
Is that something new? I mean, is that a term of art? Or is that something, a way that you describe what you've created?
Must be an architectural.
It's a way to describe an architectural.
I mean, I try and stay up on all these architectural
I thought
terms.
maybe it's good at music.
Where are the arches that Ms. Friedman is talking about?
The arches are
on the side.
Right at
There's
the ground
an
floor.
elevation that shows them more closely. They're inside there.
Back where the studio is, I think.
Okay. And are those being kept from the old building? Is that what I'm...
No,
Am I going the right way? Other way?
they're being built new. They're behind the vertical,
They're on the first floor behind the colonnade. Right.
behind the colonnades.
Oh, I see, behind the colonnades. Okay. Are there any bus stops adjacent on either Central or San Fernando?
There are several. I don't know the exact.
Well, let me answer that. That San Fernando Road and there at Los Feliz, I mean, that is basically one of the main connectors for people going to Hollywood, for people going to downtown LA. I mean, that's the hub.
But are there any bus stops immediately on that property?
Councilmember Najarian, the answer is no. There is a bus stop directly north of us that's adjacent to the CVS, but not on our property or adjacent to our property.
Does the design include any accommodation for shared vehicles like Zipcar or bicycle amenities?
Councilmember Najarian, yes, the bicycle amenities we do. If I go back to the ground floor plan, if you look at this area here, we refer to as a bike shop to be able to use for short-term and long-term bike storage as part of the project. In terms of as it relates to a shared car or zip car parking, no, we do not. But we did discuss that, and one of the reasons that we're looking at is there are that type of amenities or services directly across the street from us on the Triangle project, which is a much larger project. So we felt that our residents would also be able to benefit from using those zip cars at that location directly across the street as well. That's a much larger project, and we're about half the size of that project.
Okay, and my last question is, how many, there's no guest parking, is that correct? You're relieved of that by SB 1818?
That's correct. There's
How many spaces would you otherwise have had to put in?
the guest parking. Well, you mean if we did not implement the density bonus ordinance? So currently, what's allowed, and I'll answer your question. Currently, what's allowed is we are providing one parking space for every one bedroom, and we're providing 2 parking spaces for 2 bedrooms. We have no studios, and we have no 3 bedrooms. So that's what's allowed in the density bonus ordinance. The commercial parking is approximately, I think it's 43 spaces, okay, that we're providing, and that's a mix of spaces. So we are looking at that commercial parking as also being able to be used by guests as well that are coming to the facility. The guest parking in this area, I would have to defer to the staff. I know what it is in the downtown area. It's typically 1 space for every 10 units. I'm not sure what it is in this area, to answer your question, though.
Do we have an answer from
Here comes the answer.
36.
36 units.
36 spaces.
Correct. All right.
Are there any more questions? Okay, Mr. Quintero.
Okay, well, I fully support this project, keyboards or not. I think it's an excellent design. It certainly ties in with the Triangle project. And when you think of what this area looked like in the past and what it's going to look like, I think it's going to be a tremendous boost to Glendale. South Glendale, Atwater, Los Feliz, and the entire city of Glendale. I think it's got the right mix of commercial as well as the rental units, and being situated so close to the hospital and all of the different medical office buildings that also dot the area, as well as some fairly decent paying companies, from the Harley-Davidson dealership to some of the machining companies. There's still small aerospace manufacturers that are housed nearby. I think this is going to be a great amenity to those workers. Now, the fact that it's near the transportation center, that you can walk to the train station and to the bus station, and the fact that they're on that corner, both at CVS, across the street, literally on all 4 sides, you've got buses at Los Feliz and San Fernando Road that are going all over the Los Angeles area. So I think that's a great location for units like this. And then finally, the zip car. There will be a zip car or a rental type of situation at the Triangle project. So I think that is exactly what this building and the property owner has to do, is to tie into to being able to have his tenants also sign on to Zipcar. In terms of those arches, I don't know. If it happens, it happens. Quite frankly, if I was the owner of the company, I think I'd be interested in a new look and a new sort of logo. I'm not sure that the arches really work inside that building, but that's the interior of the building, certainly not our purview. So whatever happens, happens. But overall, like I say, I'm very happy that this has come to fruition. That building's been well maintained throughout the years. The owner has done a good job of keeping it up to standard, a much higher standard than some of the other buildings, I might add. But it's time to move on. It's time to provide more housing opportunities for Glendale employees, and so I fully and completely support the project.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Friedman. This is the first project that's in front of me, and I really like it. I like it aesthetically. It's very pleasing, very young, and very hip. I know Councilman Najarian wanted to turn Glendale hip, and we're on the road there. And the location is perfect because it's really going to enhance our plans to develop the San Fernando corridor. From what I understand, the developer is not asking for any parking variances or any concessions from the city. Is that correct? So it's great. I like it. So I fully support it.
Thank you. Next.
Well, I'll go. It's a brightly colored building. The colors don't offend me. It's something new. I think it's something we need at that corner, but my comments are going to carry over from my comments from the Triangle project. I thought there was a lot of density going in, and this, although is a smaller building, still is a lot of units. We still don't know what the effect is on the city infrastructure and the city roadways, et cetera, of all these units that are coming on. And when I discussed it a couple weeks ago, they said, oh, this was the last unit. This is the last project we have. I think SB 1818 has really shifted what our vision was as a city. I was one of the ones who worked on the San Fernando Road zoning review amendment process. I fought like hell to get residential units, residential use in that corridor. There were many. Most of the group were adamant that there should be no residential. There should be industrial and commercial and that sort of thing. The problem is SB 18, we set our rules, SB 1818 came in, and the developers are now able to get their variances directly from the state. I mean, otherwise there would be those extra 36 units, extra 36 parking spaces, which would have had to gone in. The problem is people that now come and visit are going to be parking throughout the area and increasing the congestion. And I remember on the campaign trail there were many candidates, some of them successful, who said that there's too much building going on, we need to slow down. I wish there was a bus stop on the property, because I would have asked the developer to create some enhancements to the bus stop. Unfortunately, there is not. The building is, there's basically no setbacks. It's right up to the available building spots, the property line. As a stage 1 review, I'm going to grudgingly go ahead and accept this, but I think as a whole, I'm going to please direct staff, and if we need a motion at some point, I want to review all of our zoning codes, because they're basically being cast asunder when you apply SB 1818. Whether it's going to be parking, whether it's going to be height, whether it's going to be density. Everything that we did as a commission and as a city council prior to this council is just being cast aside. So I think we really need to look at that and assume that in every instance, the developer, like they did on the project, on the Triangle project, they're going to come in and get those extra bonuses, which are giving them greater entitlement than the city, the council, planning staff intended. So we really need to look at that. I keep saying that. I've said that before. I mean it this time. We really need to look at that. I hope that there's enough demand to fill all those units. It's an awful lot of units coming into Glendale, an awful lot. Those are my concerns. The structure itself is bright, it is cheerful. It's going to replace that. That building's not historic, is it? Is anyone looking at that? Someone's looking at that. Okay, so that'll be a mini battle in itself as to whether that's historic or not. But I'm going to go ahead. Stage 1 is stage 1. But I want to make sure that we're not overbuilding the city, and at least overbuilding what we intended when we set our zoning codes and our density issues and all that.
So I agree that we should probably take a look at some of our zoning in light of SB 1818. We can't hold any developer responsible for that. We can't trump that at this point. That's a law. It's a state law, and we have to abide by it. So I'm not going to hold that against this developer. I'm also concerned about the parking impacts with the guest parking, and I would ask them to take a close look at that with the EIR. We have to keep in mind this is only a stage 1 design review. This is not a hearing where we talk about impacts like traffic. That'll come later, but it's something that I'll be taking a look at when it comes back. I think that given the Zipcar and the closeness to the transportation center and all of the buses, I'm not concerned about the residential parking. It is parked to code, and I think that's appropriate. We also will be looking at the historic resource, the existing building. They'll be doing an analysis as well as the city, and we'll take a look at that at the time. You know, the arches, as you heard, are a concern of mine, but I think it can work. You know, I think when it comes back and we see more detailed drawings, we'll have a better idea, and I'm interested to hear staff's input on that as well. You know, if they have a real need for it for the studio, I think that's important. I'm very happy that they're bringing the studio back. This is the creative corridor, and I don't, even though I think having residential there is important, I don't want to start losing our creative commercial businesses and sacrifice them for the residential properties. And this property owner has managed to retain his commercial uses while adding residential, which is exactly what I had envisioned when we were moving the creative corridor project forward. So I commend him for doing that. And I'm very glad that the studio is going to stay in Glendale. I would like them to take a look at public open space to see if that can be created. I think it's more appropriate to do it away from the restaurant area because that can always be absorbed into a restaurant or makes it more difficult for the public to understand that it's for their use. It may not work with what they're doing, but it's something I think is worth taking a look at. I think it would be a great amenity to the neighborhood and something that would really enhance the look of their building as well. I mean, you're basically creating another courtyard, you know, for your residents, certainly for the public as well, but it's something that's a really nice thing to do. And I think it would add a lot of value to the area. Those are my comments. I think the design is interesting. I think it could be a very nice addition to the area. And I'm looking forward to seeing the EIR and to seeing some of these impacts evaluated more formally.
Okay. For me, as one speaker said, he remembers the old days. Since I was born here in the late 30s, when most of the development in the 20s and the 30s and 40s came in, a lot of it has served its useful life, just like me. So revitalizing a community is essential. I always go back to houses. I went to USC and I used to read the history on USC. The area surrounding USC back at the turn of the last century was the place to be. It was high class. And it never got redeveloped and upgraded and turned down almost into slums. USC's taking a lead in trying to revitalize that area. That's the same thing that Glendale has needed and is now doing, thanks in part to the economy. Disney and DreamWorks have been a catalyst in the northwest part of Glendale. Americana has been a catalyst in the Mid-Brand area. The car dealers have built new structures in the car area. The old part of Glendale, Tropical, where this project is, we've always been criticized that we're not doing anything in South Glendale. Well, private sector is coming in and doing things. And every developer I've talked to have asked the question, why are you doing this without any assistance from the city? It's because it's the place to be. They're convinced that they can fill the units they're building. They wouldn't be here wasting their money if they didn't think that could happen. So I think the is the Mataha project, is that still the name? What's the name of it now? Oh, Mita, I'm sorry. Mita project, CVS Pharmacy, the Triangle project, and this. We're starting to see that redevelopment occurring down there. It's anchored by the Seeley's former department store where my family used to shop. And that whole sector with Glendale Memorial Hospital gradually expanding to the south. There'll be more buildings being replaced in that area because it's the oldest part of Glendale. It's going to leave. It's going to go out. I know when you come into Glendale from Glendale Boulevard, a lot of traffic turns onto San Fernando Road, and it's going to be going right past those two projects. So it's a good thing to see. I like the idea of the restaurant because I don't know if you're living or anything down around that area. I don't know where's a restaurant that you eat at, unless you go into L.A. to the Tam O'Shanter or one of those down there. There just aren't restaurants in that neighborhood. I love Spanish architecture. I've said that many times. I know it doesn't exist anymore in Glendale, which is the land of the Verdugos, but that's history, just like me. The arches do kind of look funny to me, but that's up to you guys. The architect, I always defer to the architects. I don't, I'm an engineer, I'm not an architect, so I leave it up to you. Whether it's justified to put another bus stop across the street from here when you have a major one at Los Feliz, I don't know. If you're going to, I don't think anybody will use the public open space. If you were to do it, though, I'd be putting it probably on the northeast corner of San Fernando Road, next to the CVS parking lot. But that reminds me, Mr. Agani, on the CVS pharmacy, I fought long and hard to have them put a door on the corner of Los Feliz and Los Feliz and San Fernando. It's totally blocked. They're using it for merchandise, so nobody can go in at all. So I knew that would happen, so if you kindly remind them on that. I don't know what else to say. It's close to transportation. Some will undoubtedly use that to go downtown. Maybe it's too expensive, but that's up to the MTA, Metrolink, and whatever. Speak to Mr. Najarian here. He'll take care of that for you. I didn't see him nodding yes, so. Anyhow, I think it'll be good. As far as parking, we'll have the environmental document. If storm drains, sewers, anything had to be upgraded, it'll be identified in the environmental document, and the developer will pay those costs, I believe, of upgrading. As far as I know, we've upgraded just about all the systems in Glendale, and the capacity is there. As far as parking, yeah, that'll be a nice topic in the environmental document. If guest parking is needed, yes, you do have the space underneath on the second level. Expand the parking underneath to add more in if that is a requirement of the environmental document in the mitigation measures. I think that about covers it. I know that staff has recommended. This is a rarity, stage one with no comments and no conditions. So that means you've done a lot of work with the staff and pleased them. So I'm pleased if you're all pleased, because our staff can be very critical. So with that,
I'll move 1A.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call.
Council members: Friedman,
Yes.
Najarian,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Sinanian,
Yes.
Mayor Weaver.
Aye. Thank you very much for coming, all. How's our motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we stand adjourned at 4:17.